What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a good Friday. I'm just flying solo today. Hope Sheets is having a nice time down in Florida. And we are going to get to this slate. It's a monster. There's so many good plays, and I still feel like there's news. Like we have everybody questionable for Atlanta, basically. Oh, that's a tough one. Basic strategy includes skipping the first game. I do kind of like Rozier, PJ Washington, and Kristaps. But I think that if there's going to be guys out on the Atlanta side, just buying that extra bit of time if we don't have the news is probably worth it to skip this game entirely. Just because if you get multiple of those 6 questionables for Atlanta out, you're going to probably want that over anything you'd want in the first games. If you want to make the spend up for Kristaps, I don't mind taking that shot. Been shooting the ball well, been aggressive, and it's a good matchup. So again, he and Rozier would be the obvious ones. PJ Washington, again, I think we find better stuff later on, but I certainly don't mind those guys. Just the first step to sort of breaking down the slate. The guys I'm overweight on right now, I still am overweight on Zion. Probably going to lower where I am now. I'm very overweight on Mobley. Probably going to be lower than where I am now. Overweight on Booker. Davion, I'm sorry, not Davion. Donovan Mitchell, just the price has got me. I have more Jaylen Brown than I expect the field to have. I have some Klay Thompson, some DeMar DeRozan, CJ McCollum. Basically focusing in on the New Orleans game with the Spurs. I'm playing some Trey Jones, and then trying to get a little bit of back and forth elsewhere. I like Chicago, and maybe play Klay with either DeRozan or Levine. Even Vooch, I don't think is the worst play in the world. I think that's a route you could go with what you're doing. And I think we're still really waiting on news from Atlanta. So I like one thing that stands out to me is that everyone's projecting Jalen Johnson to be this point per dollar play. I don't know why it wouldn't be Jarrett Culver after the last game. So, and I am trying to force in some value, especially in the later games. Like this Ish Wainwright thing is totally skeptical, but using him as a placeholder when I'm playing multiple late games. So where I'm playing like Devin Booker, I'll play him. I can get some 2v2 swaps, things like that if I get news late. And most of my games are starting at 8 p.m. again tonight, unless the Atlanta game, which becomes a very stackable game if you get those guys out for Atlanta. So pop on your thoughts and your questions and everything. Yeah, it was a rough one, Rich, because I all I needed, I think a Gabe Davis touchdown in the last drive. I know that's a lot to ask for, but I think that gets me the win. I think I ended up 30th, but in the 222, and I would have probably won the tournament had he had caught that extra touchdown, because there wouldn't have been a way to get the exact guys in price wise, and basically everything else was the nuts, including like the 7% owned James Cook, who was in 2 out of my 3 lineups. Yeah, that was a little bit frustrating. Pop in questions, pop in thoughts. That's sort of what I'm doing. There's a long list of guys I'm considering. At the top of the list are Sexton. This is DraftKings. Sexton's an easier play on FanDuel. Jarrett Culver. The whole Atlanta situation is a question mark. But other guys who I'm not playing currently, but looking to think like I'm considering: Smart, Holiday, Kyrie, PJ Washington, Keldon Johnson, Porzingis, AJ Griffin, who I am playing a little bit of anyway. Siakam, DeJounte Murray. That's if there's no. I mean, obviously, if Trey's out, then obviously he's a great play. Jokic, Jamal Murray, Ish, Kelly Olynyk, and Larry Nance. That's my list of TBDs that I'm going to decide in this last half hour, depending on what other news we get. It's been a weirdly quiet day, and maybe it's everybody had the day off yesterday and coming off of a couple of multiple days off where everybody had the day off on Thanksgiving. Maybe you've got some teams that feel more comfortable going out there. There's a lot of teams playing tomorrow, but really that only becomes a factor if there's a blowout, because everybody's going to try and win right away. So I'm not trying to predict as many blowouts, with the exception of what bothers me about this game with the Suns and Houston is I am worried about just an absolute massacre. And if that happens, that's going to make my Devin Booker play not look so good. Although he put up 68 and 3/4 the last game, so I don't expect him to shoot 20 for 25 again, though. All right, guys, put it on in the questions. That's my sort of 5-minute sum up of what I'm doing and what I'm looking at. Guys, I'm going to get a little bit less of, because I have just a ton of. Not Jalen Johnson's case, but Zion, Curry, Harris, Bates, Diop, Mitchell, even Mitchell, who I like a lot at 8,400. I feel like I've got like 50% of them right now. I don't think I need that much of them. I think 30% ish will probably do. to get double the field. And I'm good with that because I don't think that he has to hit his ceiling in a game against Orlando that they could absolutely destroy him. Top 3 Pacers players. So, I mean, obviously Halliburton's questionable, but I expect him to play. He should be maybe played in the shoot around. I like Jalen Smith for large field tournaments. I think Miles Turner is fine. I'm not like overwhelmingly excited about it, and I'm not really. Every one of them is fine. I have all of the Halliburton. I guess if I had to go in order, Halliburton, Turner, Smith, Healed, Matherin. All those guys are I think I have as firmly in play, but none of them as priorities over other players in a similar position. So they're not making my lineups a ton, even though it's a great game environment. We have a few good game environments, and that one's got the highest total, so I probably should get some exposure. That one in the Golden State Chicago, which is sort of where I sided. Maybe because I knew what I could do with my players real easily. It's easy, like LaVine Clay or LaVine Steph, DeRozan Clay, Vooch Clay, Vooch Steph. Or you throw Draymond out there, but I think I like getting exposure to the last game, and I know the Jazz game is late, but I'm not quite as high on them on the plays in this game. I do think that Halliburton's always a really good play, even at 9,600. I think that's fine, and Buddy Hield can always catch fire, but those minutes are going more to these young guys sometimes, so it's kind of in flux. And then Miles Turner, obviously you like the matchup, but it's not like he's going to beat up Olynyk in the post or something like that. Favorite Spur, good question. As of right now, I'm using more Bates Diop for value. I did play Romeo Langford the other day, last minute, and I was happy about it. He put up 25. It's a sort of a funny situation with no Sohan, who I think is going to be awesome in the future. By the way, just keep an eye out on that one. But Roby, I have Bates Diop, then Trey Jones, then Collins, then Roby, then Keldon Johnson. Those are the 5 guys I'm looking at right now. And I think if you're playing 150, those are probably still the guys I'm looking at. Maybe get a little more Roby. What scares me, the Roby thing, it just feels very like, okay, maybe he plays like 22 minutes and maybe he plays like 0. I don't know, man. It feels very fishy, but so when I'm running a little stack there, I have like either Zion or McCollum with either Keldon Johnson and Bates Diop. Just as a little mini stack is the way I'm running it right now. Wagner a lock? Absolutely not. He hasn't started in this spot yet, and he had a good game and a horrible game. You really don't know what you're going to get from him, but you could play him. I'm not particularly interested in him. Some minutes are going to go to him, some are going to Schofield. You guys got to remember they've got more bodies back, and Bol just slides over at center. This is not the same last year Magic team where those guys, the Bamba and what's his name are out, so that means it's automatically Wagner or even a little Schofield at time to time. But like Wagner's not like, he's not cheap. He's 5,100, and I think his range of outcomes are somewhere between 5 fantasy points and 30 fantasy points. And obviously you'd like 30, but I'm definitely not trying to get to that. That's absolutely not a guy who I'm trying to play. If I end up with one of him, it'll be probably one of him as a pivot off of somebody like Zach Collins. Personally, yeah, Melton going back to Memphis. Unfortunately, he's got Embiid with him. I do like Melton for large field tournaments. I'm not playing him for what it's worth, but I do think that it's kind of interesting. I just don't know at that price that he's better than Zach LaVine. I don't know that he's better than Jamal Murray. I don't know that he's better than Drew Holiday. I just don't see it as being a play that I can quite get on board with. And it's not like there's like a venomous thing between he and them. And it's not like he's their number one. Even, I mean, honestly, Shake Milton has been, for the most part, the guy without all these guys in there. All right. Yes, I do like CJ, Peyton Wavy. I answered that one before, but in case you didn't hear, I do like CJ. Let's see what else we got. Keep dropping them on in there. I do think the Wagner play is maybe a little bit better than I'm giving it credit for, but it's an early game. I think there's a wide range of outcomes. I don't think they need to play him. I don't like the matchup for them. I guess I could keep going on, but I'm probably not going to. He's probably a fine large field play. Like maybe if I played 150, he gets into a few of them. That's about where I'm at on him. I'm just trying to figure out where he's projecting. See if I'm maybe not missing. Like I'd rather play Larry Nance cheaper, and I think he's probably got the same outcome most of the time. Wagner. Yeah, I got him projected for 20 fantasy points. It's pretty terrible. But again, he has games weirdly, but I don't think this is the night for it. All right. Well, there aren't great values right now because we have all these question marks in Atlanta. So it's really more of a middling build type of slate to answer that question. That's why I named at the top all the guys that I'm playing. I have a lot of placeholder guys like I expect to change, like Seth Curry. I have Bates Diop a lot. I have a few Roby long shots. Zach Collins is not quite cheap. Jalen Johnson, but I like Jarrett Culver as a pivot. Nobody that's too exciting. Certainly nobody from the first game. So I'm gonna wait to see what happens with Atlanta and those 6 questionables because that's probably going to dictate where you get your value from. I think LeVert for a blowout is an interesting angle to take. Yeah, I do. I think he gets those minutes, and I like him off the bench anyway better. So I could get behind it. I think it's a large field tournament play more than it's a regular one, but I could definitely see a path here where LeVert has a really, really big game. And I don't mind getting some exposure to that. I think that you're going to hope for the blowout, but you're hoping his second unit is the reason why. It's not going to project well. He's not going to be that popular. And I think that it's not entirely chasing because we know what he's capable of. So he's not on my priority list, but he is a guy I have a little bit of exposure to just playing the blowout, but very little bit for me. All right, let's see what else we got. Other plays that I've got in my main lineups. I mentioned Mobley. Again, I like Jaylen Brown. I like DeMar DeRozan. I like those mid-tier guys in that 8K range. I like Clay tonight. I like CJ. I like Zion where I'm not playing CJ and CJ where I'm not playing Zion. I like Booker, but I'm a little nervous about the potential game script. And I wish I could find a run back that I felt comfortable with, and I don't have one. Donovan Mitchell, I mentioned, Trey Jones, Colin Sexton. One guy who no one's talked about, who I think, has been just pretty terrible, is Fred VanVleet. It's a matchup that he's had monstrous games in the past before, and I think that you could take a shot on him too. I've got him at like 10% right now, but this might all be for naught because we might be playing DeJounte Murray by the end of the night. And I think there's some argument for Cam Payne too, and that's a weird one, but I think that he does have a ceiling, even if we haven't seen it as much lately. Because I mean, let's just face it, Ayton and Booker go that nuts. It's really hard to get anything going. I honestly don't understand the Dillon Brooks part of the reference, Sam Destu. I wish I did. I understand what's happening with the whole Kanye thing. Who it just is a horrible whatever. It used to be my favorite artist, and I don't know. I don't really want to get into it, but I don't know how it. I have no interest in Dillon Brooks, no matter what, unless Ja is out. So, and even then, I don't think he's that good of a play. So I don't know what it affects for Dillon Brooks. Am I missing something here? I don't know. What am I missing, guys? Just let me know what I'm missing in the Discord about the Dillon Brooks part of Kanye. Devin Booker. I thought it said D Brooks. No, I don't think that has any effect, especially on it. What would it affect? Is it going to make him play worse? I can't see why it would. I mean, the guy's just been going completely nuts. If anything, if there was a weird bold call you want to take from it, maybe take it that, hey, Chris Paul surprise suits up tonight. I don't know. I don't think it's going to affect Booker. I don't know how that's going to affect Devin Booker. It's not like I don't know. Yeah, Jamal Murray game time decision is another big one, mostly for Bruce Brown and Jokic for me. Not as much of Bones for me personally, but I think Ish Smith is definitely in the conversation because he's probably going to start, and he puts up fantasy points. There's the kind of matchup where he could play some minutes, even though you're going to see the Bones minutes in there too. It's just played 26 and 22 minutes the last 2 games in those blowouts against Houston. If somehow Murray's out, I think that getting some Ish Smith exposure might be some at least reasonable value, especially if we get some guys out for Atlanta. Then we can sort of like balance that and sort of mini stack that game for the right pieces of value. You keep getting on Grayson Allen. I cannot figure out why you would be getting on Grayson Allen. Everything's worse for him than it's been all season. Chris Middleton is supposed to be back. I don't see the argument. So if you play Grayson Allen today, my argument would be you should play him. It's yeah, sure, it's a good matchup, but you should just basically play him every day. Like this is the worst. This is the highest price he's going to be. Maybe he'll be a couple hundred higher at some point. But with Holiday, Middleton, and Giannis and Lopez, I mean, they're totally healthy. You can still Portis off the bench. I don't know. I don't know. Especially the Lakers with their, lots of weird guards. You'd think they would put Javon Carter out there because defensively he can cause such a problem. I don't know. I don't know where some these guys got to lose out somewhere. Like I don't know why. If you haven't played Grayson Allen, he's been great lately. Chris Middleton is back. Chris Middleton is back, and he's had one game that really was a good, like a really strong game. Yeah. He's had literally one game. Even the game he gets to 30, like 31. Okay, fine. So 2 games. That's not even that great. And like he has to hit his ceiling and shoot the lights out to do it. With Middleton back, that would be certainly a really weird play. I love it. I love it, Kobe. I'm glad, man. Aaron Gordon, it falls a little bit in that category. Now, if Murray was out, I would give him a little bit more of a boost. And obviously, you like the game environment for him. So Aaron Gordon has become a better fantasy producer to where I'd say he has enough of a ceiling. Yeah, you could play him. I don't think it's like optimal to play him. I think I'd rather play Bruce Brown than I would him if we had Jamal Murray or Bones out. But I think he's, look, if you want to take a wild card play that no one's going to play, go ahead, man. I think he might be totally stackable once we hear the Atlanta guys. Any Najee Marshall? No. I'm curious what they even do with their rotation here. I know he's supposed to start those minutes. The other guys have been awesome in the minutes, and Najee Marshall has shown almost no ceiling except for when they were missing Zion early in the season and all the other guys and Nance and all that, and he was playing 38 minutes. I don't see Najee getting those types of minutes, but I think that because I would use him and I would just expect to replace him hopefully by that game time. Can he get there? Sure. But I see his ownership projection as being just something I can't get my head around. And I think it's a mistake on Sims, to be honest with you, because I don't see how he could be projecting for 15 fantasy points and then also be projecting to be 24% owned. That there's something wrong with that. I think Najee Marshall is probably, it just feels wrong because all those other guys, we saw what they can do. And you're going to lose minutes to Alvarado, Nance is back, Dyson Daniels. All those guys are going to play minutes, and I just can't get behind the Najee Marshall thing on this size of a slate. It's a placeholder play to me. But then again, I do have Roby in a lineup, so I don't think that one's any better than the other. Jalen Daniels is not on the Hornets. I'm confused. Jaden McDaniels, no problem, Antonio. Jalen McDaniels, it's fine. It's certainly not a play that I'm like looking to get. I'm trying to avoid playing anybody in the first game, period. And Jalen McDaniels would be probably the guy I played if I had, the guy outside of PJ Washington and Kristaps and Rozier. So I don't even have him highly rated for that. It's a good game environment. He can always get there. But to use that on the first game of the night when we have these questions in Atlanta just feels wrong. Is Mathurin a better player than Grayson Allen? Oh, my God. Mathurin is better play. My bad. I don't think you want to. I'm not trying to play either of them, but yes, Mathurin is a better play in my opinion. But I'm not trying to get to either of them unless we had somebody out for Indiana. But I think Mathurin is a fine play where I don't even think that Grayson Allen is any kind of a play at all. You're just praying some guy gets hot and makes 6 threes when there's no reason to think he's even going to play the minutes to. So I would much rather play Mathurin than I would Grayson Allen. At least Mathurin's like a really, really good basketball player, and he's going to be a fantasy monster. I don't think you're trying to play any of those. Devontae Graham is not in play. You guys remember McCollum's back. Things change. This is not the same thing before. Wiggins for me hasn't. Yeah, I could see Wiggins. Any of the 6K-ish guys from Golden State, I prefer to a lot of the other names that we've been talking about. Like Draymond, Wiggins, and Clay, I think are all firmly in play. I love the game environment. I'm siding with Clay, but I have no problem if you want to go Wiggins or Draymond. I mean, I think that's a very viable question, and I think it's the kind of game that you could see Wiggins. I mean, I feel like that with Wiggins with a lot of games, and then you don't really know where it's coming from. But you saw like what he did against Utah and against the Clippers last time. He was just incredible. That was more of efficiency, but against Utah was more, I think, what you could maybe expect in this kind of a game environment. I think you see his rebounds tick up. I think you see the assists potentially tick up, and then I think you get the steal block upside, which is a little underrated part of his game. All right, guys, keep asking questions. I got nothing else to go through from my plays. So if you ask questions, I will be happy to answer them, and we will get on out of here so I can finish building my lineups. But again, my lineups don't really start till 7:30 because of no news and because I don't like the first game enough to play it. So that's my spiel, as they say. Exciting World Cup day tomorrow. Got US at 7 a.m. my time, 10 a.m. East Coast. Hopefully they can advance and play at a later time. But that'll be fun. It looks like things are drying up. But guys, as always, I appreciate you all. Would you please hit the like button? I'll be in Discord, happy to try and answer anything. And again, leaving it on here for about 30 more seconds before I turn it off if there's no more questions. But I appreciate you guys very much. All right. Cheers.